Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're having a good summer. Thanks for being here in a low air quality day in New York because of Canada. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing good. Doing good. Had a fun weekend in Boston a few weeks, like last weekend. That was fun. Got to visit, well, stand outside of my old school, but that was as far as I got. So today, before we get rolling, thanks to BB and, of course, everybody who's here, I have my Art of Melodic Soloing course on sale for half off, and that is where you can work on your melodic soloing using triads and thinking about how you can nail chord tones, the notes in between, so you get your passing notes that are all diatonic to your key, kind of basically around how to sound like David Gilmour at certain times. So that course is on sale for half off if you dig that. And I got the backing track I've got coming up. When I doodle a little bit, you can get that for free using the link there as well. So if you got Mr. Softy driving by, if you can hear that. And what else do I have to announce? Oh yeah, my Inner Circle. I had a thing saying it's sold out for this month. We're opening up a little bit of time to slowly expand the Inner Circle. So if you want to click on a link for the Inner Circle, which is everything in the channel and plus 2 live lessons a month with a group of guys, it's really been awesome. And also that includes 2 lessons that are exclusive to the Inner Circle that I do a month. And that's been really awesome. So if you want to grab on that waiting list, you can use that link, and there's a little waiting list there. Give you, as soon as that opens up, we'll shoot you an email letting you know that there's space available. And if you want, you can sign up. It's been going great. I'm building it slowly because I want to keep it kind of exclusive, and it's been awesome. So check out the Inner Circle if you are not already a member. But yeah, it just sold out. We just announced and it all went up. Okay, anyway, so you can check that out. So what am I going to talk about today? Hey, let's talk about some gear because, it's always fun. And definitely want to hear your comments in the chat. I am exceptionally lazy when it comes to moving my pedal board. I've got my big pedal board that you saw with me doing on that pedal show. I bring that to my gigs with my trio just because it kind of covers everything. And but it's a pain in the butt to travel with. And if I'm going to do rehearsal or if I'm going out of the country or something, I don't really want to bring that with me because it's kind of big, and depending on what I'm doing, I might not need it. So my son is hammering something upstairs. If you hear that hammering in the background. So here's what I've put together. And that is sort of my mini travel board. Let's go through it. The thing about the travel board is I always want to make it as easy as possible to bring with me, obviously. So here right now I am working, I got a Pedal Train Nano Plus, right? That's what that is. Yeah, Nano Plus. I have the Nano, which I'll talk about in a minute, which I really like, but it just needs that one more pedal. Now, I generally don't love doing this kind of thing, but it kind of worked with these 2 pedals here because I do like having a few things. Let's hear it. So right now I am running into, I guess, sort of like the least expensive amp I own. So people are like, oh, you're playing to a T-Rock or something. It's the Marshall JTM 45 Studio, which sounds great. Really nice clean tone. Now, generally speaking on gigs, I play through a clean amp just because even though I've got great amps with great overdrive, I like to be able to control the overdrive or the volume of everything. Or if I'm on the road, I'm usually not using my amp. Sometimes they'll have an effects loop, sometimes they won't. Then if you're running like a 4-cable method, all those things can add to complications on a gig. So very often I just plug straight into the amp with a clean channel. So I want something a little more headroom, usually 40 watts. Like this is 20 watts. I don't know if I would want to gig with this with pedals necessarily. I don't know how much headroom's on. I've not gigged with it. So in other words, if you turn up your overdrive, it's got to start breaking up the amp, and then it gets all, I'll give you examples. So right now, here's my clean tone. Totally dry. Oh, it's not dry. There we go. Okay, so I always love having a little bit of reverb. So I got the Heavenly from UA, which I think sounds great. There's the other one that I really like. I forget the name of the other one. This is the Hall reverb. They have a spring and they have a plate one. This is the Hall. I like Hall reverbs. I always really end up kind of leaning towards those when I'm printing reverb. I like spring reverb, but sometimes it can kind of get away from you. Now I'm going to talk about why wouldn't I use reverb in an amp. Sorry, let me just fix this. And I'll talk about that in a minute too. So I've got the Heavenly set, kind of just how I like a little bit of reverb. Now, I always like having delay. Now, one thing I'm doing here that I've kind of figured out, on certain setups, I might have the multi-switch by Strymon, or I might have a little MIDI switch to get multiple presets from this, or from my timeline. But what I've got going on here is, oops, I'm off camera, is I've set up an expression pedal. So let me just bring that all the way up. So I can bring up the wet on the delay by using the pedal. So what I'm going to do is put a little overdrive. What I like is on the gig, I can just, control how much delay I want with my foot pedal. So let me put that back on the floor. And I find I don't usually use too many presets other than just how much delay I have going on. So I like having it on the floor. If you can't really quite see, my foot's moving over here. So wet, turn it down. Now, I can, according to the gig, like you get to the sound check. Now, this is really important. Sometimes the presets can be a bit weird, but you practice at home and then you get to the gig and stuff is entirely too wet. Happens all the time. So this is really easy to program. The Strymon, I just hold these two down and I can program what the heel and the toe does by dialing it. It's very easy. So if you're doing this kind of thing, I highly recommend that you learn how to program your unit on the fly. One of the reasons why I use the El Cap a lot, I love the sound of the Halo. I was kind of messing with it again before. It's got some dog hair on it, and cat hair. I just find it a little more tricky to program. This one I've been using since they came out. This is the latest version. So for me, very, very easy to program. And I've found this all the time, that I might want more wet or I might want less wet on the expression pedal. Now, one thing, if you're not used to using an expression pedal live or at volume, it's almost always there's more wet signal going live. It feels like it's always more wet than I've programmed at home because you're louder. So it's something you really want to think about. That's why I said you should be able to program it on the fly, because I've had that situation where I'm sitting there, how do I get my phone out trying to read the manual for the Strymon thing? So, and also, you don't want to be this. I find this tricky. I don't know if you guys find it as well. That sometimes if you're using expression pedal, they can be a bit. If you have the sweep too much. So if I down here and it's dry and up here is like fully wet, you're spending half the night trying to get your foot in that right position, and it's always that little bit different or more than you wanted or less than you wanted. These are things that I've found on gigs. So being able to program that really quickly at a sound check, all right, this is as wet as I needed to be on this gig or as dry as I needed to be. Okay, so that's something I've found really helps a lot, So here's my favorite go-to overdrive pedal. I have two of them, thanks to the guys at Vemram. One on my big board and one for my small board, because except I'm pulling it off my big board and putting it on my every board. So this is sort of the go-to overdrive. I use it all the time. Tracy Farmer's online. So Tracy and I are the big proponents of this pedal. And what I love about this is it's super ampy sounding. There's so many great overdrives. This is just the one that I find I always try to make everything sound like, and I always come back to. So I've got two of them. This one stays on my little board. Yeah, I play a chord on this. Two. So there. So basically when I'm running into an amp, I'm kind of treating this like overdriven amplifier. So I just roll back the overdrive, or roll back the volume of my guitar to get less overdrive. Now, once again, if you're on a gig and you got a tube amp or anything like that, you're really gonna, what you set at home is always going to be different. What you set at rehearsal is also going to be different from a gig. So oopsies, keep on doing that today. So when I'm on this right now, maybe on a gig, I'll end up turning down the overdrive a little bit, or turning it up, because I don't have volume. Right now I'm running into the aux, and I'm running into my studio monitors at like a television sort of volume. When you're at real volume, I play sort of cleaner because things are starting to compress a little bit. So I keep this sort of like just the amplifier right now. And I roll back the volume. For my clean tone, it's maybe more like that. Then bring up the volume. Right? Now, what I have to be careful of, and I want to talk about this for a second, I'm running into a clean amp. So I'm going to try to keep the volume somewhat at unity gain. Kind of at the same volume. And the reason for that is if I push the front end of the amp really hard and put my overdrive up, it's not doing it right now, but if you got to ride that line, because sometimes if you push too much on the front end of the amp, you're going to get the amp to break up, and then you get that really kind of ugly distortion and reverb that coming before distortion, so it sounds kind of harsh and not so great. I mean, it can sound cool as an effect in my mind, but for me, my band, as you heard those tracks, I use delay a lot, so I want the delays to be as clean as possible. So that's something that you can be kind of careful of. So I try to usually shoot for unity gain. Well, depending on how much headroom the amplifier has. All right. And so now, my go-to warbly effect. I think on my pedal boards, I always like a delay. I always want delay and reverb. Now you may say, hey Jeff, why don't you use your amp reverb? And this is what I want to get to. This, first of all, this doesn't have any reverb. But if say there's like a hot rod or something like that, which is a super common amp on gigs, the DeVille series or something. The reason why I don't like the amp reverb is I think it's really splashy and I can't control it. So if I hit everything with the front end of the amp a little hard, the reverb can kind of go and get really too reverby and too surfy in a way. So if I just use a digital reverb in front, I have control over how much volume I push into the front end of it before it goes crazy, right? So these are things that you find out on a gig. You're like, why does everything sound terrible? It's like, oh, I'm pushing the reverb too hard, or I'm breaking up the amp and everything can be messy. So my favorite kind of, like I said, warbly pedal. I like having one because it's always nice to have that, especially with my band. Some of my songs have got Univibe, and I had to go through a 12-step program to stop using it on everything, if you listen to my first record. The Univibe I find can cover a few grounds. I really like tremolo as well. So on my big board, I have the tremolo. I have the Flint, which is the reverb, and the tremolo. Neither of those on the Flint is my favorite reverb nor my favorite tremolo, but they work really well in one pedal, and it's good enough, if that makes sense. Like the full tone tremolo, I think sounds better, and some of the UA reverbs I prefer. But to get that all together in one thing, so sometimes you just gotta, it'll read the same to an audience, if that makes sense. All right, so the Univibe. And what I love about the Univibe, you can get that sort of, love that sound. Big part of some of my tunes. Like the intro tune's got the big Univibe on it, and I think it really is important for the tune. Adds that other dimension, especially when you're playing a trio like I do. I think it's just, you need that. In Europe, I'm playing with a quartet, but the trio, I like changing up some of the guitar sounds with Univibe and like Octavia and delay and tremolo. I think it keeps things a little bit more interesting. So that's one thing I really like. All right, so the thing I also like about the Univibe, try to get the mic over here, is that the vibrato part. I think it's often overlooked. So flip switch, but faster. All right, so I like that I can get this different sort of thing. It's a bit of a Leslie sound, which the Univibe was supposed to be in the beginning, and I like that sound. And I can even lay it back like that. So I really think that it's pretty useful, and it can read the same way as like a phase shifter, and it can read the same way kind of as a tremolo. So chorus. You know, if you need to kind of, well, breathe is a univibe, but if a song's got tremolo, you can kind of get some of the thing. Now, harmonic trem on a pedal is really great sounding. And say that Pedal Show pedal's got one of them on there. And I love the sound of harmonic trem, but it sounds kind of like a univibe, but the univibe's got more of that, you know, little asymmetrical wobble to it, like wobble. You know, it's got the throb thing better than the harmonic trem, though I do like harmonic trem quite a bit. All right. Let's see what else you got going on here. All right, so next up, I'll get to questions, is, of course, going to be the overdrive. Now, the boost on top of this, I really like Klon's. Right? It does what it's supposed to do. There's other pedals that I might want to use more as a boost. Like, I love the sound of my KTR. I think it sounds a little better than this. Sounds a little different. Close. We're talking percentages. But when you sit here as ridiculously as I do and go back and forth, something about that pedal I like a little more. But, you know, the second you get on a rehearsal or a gig and you hit this, it sounds great. And if you notice, what it's doing too is it's pushing the mids a bit, like a Klon, and it shaves off some of the low end. So we can avoid some of that stuff, especially when using humbuckers on the neck, where it can get a bit flubby. And I can also dial in as much gain as I want. Let's crank up the gain or even the volume. You know, you can really push it. Single coil on this and the neck. So for me, I can bring this and it will cover my gig. Now, the things I'm only feel like that I'm kind of missing is I love having something like a Octavia so I can get a noisemaker, especially when you're playing with the trio. It takes a little tension or pressure off of me at times. Sometimes you're like, man, I've been working kind of hard. Sometimes the noisy thing I love the way it sounds, but it also can make, you know, gives you a little break because the effect becomes the thing. Does that make sense? So it's like a wah pedal. I don't usually bring a wah pedal just because they're kind of heavy and annoying to carry around. And I also try not to. I might end up using it too much because I love them. And you start going wow, wow, wow on all these tunes. And I find that that's one that I can overuse on a gig at times. So if I could get an Octavia on here, that would do almost my whole gig. One thing I would miss probably would be a tremolo, because I do have it on some of my tunes. And I think it's a big part of the songs. There's two of them. There's a song called Marta that's definitely tremolo. And there's one called Gowanus 5-0 where the tremolo, it's a surf tune basically, and the trem plays a big part in it. And I changed the speed of the tremolo and all that. So to me, those two tunes in my set need it. Now, if I'm just going to go to rehearsal, this kind of covers everything I need. Next up, a few quick thoughts. Now, if I don't need the wobblies, one thing I do like having three levels of gain. On my big board, I've got these three Vemram pedals. I got the Jan Ray, the Shanks, and the Landau. What I would also maybe do is this. If I don't need the univibe on something. And the reason why I like the three gains is I can kind of bass gain, the amp a bit more, and then, over the top shreddy stuff. And so on my gig, if it's my gig alone, I do like the option of having that third gain stage if I want to legato my brains out. I'm not necessarily boosting the volume so much as more as I am just adding some more gain, so a little more gain staging, so I can, do my faux worth if I want. So there you go. Oh, and the most important thing, a tuner. This one's buffered, which I think really helps out a lot. It's a silent tuner. I think just the Polytune Noir is just a great tuner. I think it's really awesome sounding. I think it really does a ton of, Harmonious Monk. Thanks, man. I have one of those. It's great. Now, this one's got the buffer, and I don't know if you would hear if I turned off, I'd have to kind of take it offside and turn off the buffer. The buffer makes a big difference, especially when you're running cable. And the output buffer on this is pretty good. Another pedal, so I'm going to pull some other stuff up in a second. So this, underneath here, the last thing, it's the Strymon Oh-Hi. No, I'm sorry. This is the Nano pedal train. No, sorry. Mono power supply. There we go. All right. So this one's, make sure I'm back and lined up. So the mono I find really nice. I like that power supply. You can expand it. It's been really reliable. I think it's really great. And I put that together. My friend made my pedal board over at 30 Street Guitars, and he did a great job. I just change stuff out a lot. And people have these pedal boards that they get really professionally made that are beautiful, but I always kind of change my mind, so I'm pretty good at using the cables that I like. I really like those EBS cables with the flat sides. I've never had one break in all the years of using it. I use the dual lock, so I've never had a pedal fall off or anything like that as well. I'll get some questions, but check this out. I just wanted to show you guys. So the other, if I had a mini board, but I don't, there we go. There's a great website called Pedal Planner or Pedal Playground. So on my Pedal Train Nano, which I like having that, I think this is a cool kind of setup. If you look here, here's some of my other pedals that I always try to fit, but I love the Delverb. So that's another option. And you might say, well, Jeff, why don't you have the Delverb? I just like having the option of the functionality of adding more in wet and dry. But the Delverb, the reverb and the delays are amazing on this pedal. So I really love the Delverb. So here, like for me, I could, you start to kind of jam stuff in here. I've tried. That gets a bit close, as you can see, on the toes too, stepping on the stuff. At home, okay, try playing your set with your pedal board before you go on it. Because I've been like, I can jam all this, and then in the gig, I start stepping on two pedals at once. And I've had that happen a number of times. And so I have to learn to run through my gigs standing up, as you would live, like where you kind of, oh, I got to change the pedal and just jump to it. If it's a little too close in your living room or your practice room, it's going to be too close live. So here, since I want to keep that, this to me right here is super great. This pedal board, it's awesome. I've got the tuner, the Vibe Machine for all the things I would want it for, King of Tone, which I think is another one of my favorite pedals, really awesome pedal, and the Delverb. And this is like, if I want to go to rehearsal, if I'm going to go to a jam, I'm going to sit in with somebody, I just bring like this and I'm good to go. I would love to have this on there. So what I might actually also end up doing would be, to tilt this on its side and do the same kind of thing, and then jam the Wampler Tumminus right here as well. So I might, recreate some of the stuff from the other pedal board. Just depends. Seems whatever works best. But I really love having 3 drives if it's my gig, 3 levels of drive. If I'm just sitting in with someone and it's like a regular bluesy kind of rock thing, I'm going to do something like this, or I might even just do that. That sounds great too. So I just have to kind of be prepared when I'm going into thinking about what the options might be. All right, let me go back to this other one. So that's called Pedal Planner. Fun site. And don't forget when you're doing your pedal planner stuff, hold on. Don't forget that you're like, yeah, this looks great. You know, I jammed this in. I can put this there, and I can put this there, and I can put, you know, and then you can't fit the power supplies on the side or the cables, or they're so close together that your foot steps on too. So don't forget you have to have room for cables and stuff. So nice to have some of these options. Like to me, this would be great for any kind of sit-in and a jam session. Or once again, my favorite, overdrive and another boost. There you go. So yeah, Tracy's still on. Tracy's the one who hit me with the Delver. It is awesome. Sounds great. So that's always in play. That's often sits in the effects loop of my Jakey Lee here right now. I just love that pedal on just all the time as a reverb in the amp because it's got the UA reverb. So, all right, let me get back to the window and get to some questions. All right, let me get to blah, 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 wrong window. All right, let me see what questions we have over here, if there are any. Lots of great questions, I think, in there. There's so many pedals out there too. Like I was really looking, I'm like, oh, I think I should get that. I think I need that. And I'm like, there's so many. I just keep on going back to the same ones. I've really tried to, I'm off the sauce for a while, except for this. But you know what I mean? Like I've got so many pedals. I always end up making them sound the same. Or if they don't sound like what I hear in my head, which is often just the Shanks or the Jan Ray or some sort of blues breakery thing, which is this, or Nobles, like I just, I try to sit there and dial them in. But there are so many great pedals. So I can't even say, which. All right, let me see what we got. All right, so we've got BLM Iwa 3 pedals on my board. Boss D2W, Crazy Tube Circuits Unobtainium, and Wampler Ethereal. Yeah, like that's super, cuts through everything, right? Does everything. Hold on. Dave Keltner, currently working through your solo blues course, nice companion to a True Fire course of basically the same name. Good stuff. Thanks. Yeah, very similar name, different material actually. And that other one was filmed like a number of years ago. So that's not plate, it's Hall. It's a Hall reverb, right? I know. Wait, where's it's plate? Yeah. Oh, that's the plate. What did I say? Hall? I'm sorry. I got it wrong. Hall reverb. I always go for the Hall. Thank you for correcting me on that. I forget. I always go for the Hall reverb. Should remember that. All right. Vemra is a version of the Nobles. It is. I really like that pedal a lot. The Germanium Wampler is back. Yes, I like it a lot. Let me see what we got going on here. Martian Murray, my 3 are EQ'd Park Fuzz, speaker cranker, and a Dimension C. Absolutely, that's great. I have the other thing you could do, which I mess around with a little bit. It's like the Boss EQ pedal, which is super, super useful, of course, because you can dial in any kind of boost that you would want with it. The reason why I don't end up using it is because I just forget about it. I just get so involved with another overdrive. I have the one from the guys down in Nashville, the modified one. It sounds awesome. I don't know why I don't use it more. I probably should, but for my wah pedal, I have I'm gonna flip out because I remember the name popped out of my head. It's got the Midnight Vibe from him. Oh boy, he makes a great wah pedal. Sorry, the name popped out of my head. I wasn't thinking about wahs really. Oh, Angus. Okay, Angus, you could put the Plethora number 1 in place of that Vibe machine, but I know you never would. Yeah. Angus has been using the Plethora number 1, and it's just the size of a pedal. You can get a bunch of preset pedals, and it functions as one, which is a really cool idea we were talking about on the phone, and that would be something I would consider depending on the gig or the tune. the Vibe machine sounds good. I'm just so used to it. I get pretty locked in, especially on a gig. I'm just like, I'm just so used to this with my music too. The Shanks is hard to beat, very ampy. I agree. And I turn the little knob on the top, on the back there. That's the gain. What is it? The saturation. I have it on like 0, really, really low. If not 0, close to it. So I'm running it sort of as clean as you kind of can, Trace Farm Delverb. Yeah. Kenneth Dave, my Friedman Gel 20 sounds like my headed up JMP back in the nights. I freaking love this amp. I'm going to be doing a video on J.K. Lee double picking. It sounds, the whole like if I can do it right now. Too much delay going on. Where's my pedal? It moved when I changed my pedal board. Right. That whole I'm not even warmed up. I can't even do it right now. Need more gain for that. That kind of stuff. Weaver effects. Thanks you, man. Thanks so much. All right. Pretty boring here. Just the Barber gain changer. I love the gain changer. God, guys, there's Keith's bus pedal, which is I love the gain changer. Keith's bus pedal is the direct drive, which is also one of my favorite pedals, mixed with his sort of Dumble side. So this is pretty high in the running at times too. I've done these two together. I'm sorry, you can't see that. Hold on. I've worked with this, and that sounds great too. The gain change, the direct drive sound. So I really love the direct drive, but this is the bus. This is the 5-watt world pedal, which is kind of the best of both worlds because you get the Dumbly thing, and then you get the Marshall thing. So he's got the JTM 45 sort of thing with a little more gain here. The direct drive's got 3 levels of gain. I usually end up using the JTM 45-ish thing. So I find this to be always kind of in the running at times too. So yeah, really good pedal here. You can get that, I think, over at Keith's channel or over at Barber. David Barber makes great stuff. Nothing boring about a gain changer. It's a great pedal. Got one in the closet. My poor J.K. Lee stuff there for a minute. All right, so any more questions on what I would do here with this? Now, a few things. Like I said, with the delays, I kind of have to have delay on my gig. I just love having delay. If we're between delay and reverb, I would always probably, well, depending on the gig. On my gig, I'd probably have to go for the delay. Because delay can sound like reverb depending on your room. I've heard David Gilmour talk about this, that Live Beat actually doesn't use reverb. I could be wrong, but from an interview I've heard him talk about that. Because the room, it's playing Madison Square Garden, there's plenty of reverb. So it's the delay that gives it that real ambient thing too. Gary Mosley, drive into vibe or vibe into drive? Drive into vibe for me. Vibe into drive, excuse me, right. So I'm always thinking about the Hendrix thing. So, Jimmy used fuzzes and stuff, and he would sometimes change where he put stuff, but the amp would be breaking up a little bit, or Van Halen, like Unchained. If you wanted to sound like Unchained, to me, this gets that sound, especially when I put on the Strat. Right? That's that sound. If you put it afterwards, the effect becomes much more dramatic. So to me, I'm hearing more univibe kind of stuff if the drive comes first, right? So I much prefer this sound. The only pedals, I like all swishy pedals, except for tremolo. That's like a power amp section thing. I like that last. I like that after overdrive because that's a volume thing. But if you're talking about a time-based effect pedal, flanger, chorus, anything like that, I like those in front of the overdrive. And then I like the Spirit of Radio from Rush. I believe that's afterwards because it's super flangy. You know what I mean? So Unchained from Van Halen is beforehand. So I like that much better. And right, it sounds like a phaser behind the drive. Drew Dunn just posted this in there. I agree with you. So yeah, it's too much at that point. Now the funny thing is, some people will say like about pedals, like something like the people don't need pedals. Well, maybe you don't. Depends what kind of music you're playing. My trio, very Pink Floyd, huge influence on me. All the classic guys, and Eric Johnson, all these things, delays, reverbs, fill out the sound, and I like the way they sound. If I'm playing on a blues gig, right, straight on blues gig, I can just reverb and an overdrive pedal. As long as there's something to give me some space. I like reverb because if you're playing a smaller club, sometimes the delay can be a bit weird, but reverb, it's like reverb. It makes it more fun to play. Playing super dry, unless you're playing a bigger place, or very dense music, I find difficult. So if you're playing a Marshall and you're playing a hard rock band and you're playing a bigger room, I don't miss the reverb. But if I'm playing my music, or if I'm playing a smaller room and there's a Marshall with no reverb, I miss that space that reverb gives me around the note. So I always want reverb. And if it's like when you see amp distortion, I could throw it in the effects loop of something like this and just have reverb in the amp and then use the little overdrive pedal in front. So it's all about the gig that you're playing. And if it's an amp like this, I could turn it up, I could do the whole thing with just a volume knob. So that's fine too. It all depends on what the gig is. But some people, I've had people like, well, blah, 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 just, Dwayne Allman just plugged into the front of his amp, Okay. But Hendrix didn't. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. It's whatever you're playing and the kind of way you like to play. I find for my music, which gets a bit moody, these are the things that cover the ground. And I think pretty well. This is Victor Beebe. I just started getting into pedals in the past year. I got a JHS, not a Klon, not a Dumble, and reverb. I got a nice reverb style pedal and enjoy using the vibrato in the chorus more now. Yeah, they're much more flexible than I think people think they are. Now I've got the Weaver Univibe, which sounds huge. Sounds bigger than this one. I haven't tried the latest Vibe machine. I think the Vibe sounds good enough. In a perfect world, I would use the big, huge Univibe, but it's too big. It takes up so much pedal space that it would be this big, So I could have a Univibe and a pedal, and one more. So that's why I wouldn't do it. After is Trower, before is Jimmy. And it's funny, like when Trower does it, he's not using that much gain. So it sounds like it works for him. Sometimes he'll use fuzz, but if I get gainier, and you want to kind of do more of the shreddy stuff, I find it after becomes a bit too phasey, you're saying. But yeah, Trower does use it after. Sounds awesome. I love Robin Trower. And I like kombucha. Low sugar kombucha, of course. All right. Let's hear it with a Strat. Matadle. Jeff McEnroe signature model. Turn the gain a little bit, then this. Now, there, especially on a Strat, I would love to have the other level of oomph. So it could be, like I said, another pedal or something like this with a dual drive. But once again, I always miss this. So I do like the 3 levels of gain. And also you can choose between the two. You know what I mean? Do I want the more or the less gain? Excuse me, or all of them together. So I like the 3 levels of gain. Because don't forget, I'm treating this like a slightly overdriven amplifier. Jason Lachlan, what's up, man? What's up with the silver tumness? It's special for guys like me. No, they did this little crazy limited run of one with the germanium in it. And, you know, it's supposed to be more sounding like the... It was... I just was like, you know, that Pavlovian thing, like, oh, I better get one. Bought one. And then suddenly they're all sold out. And I don't know if they're going for more money now, but they beat it to the other one. They sound pretty much identical, slightly different. Not really, you know, that different, but maybe not, you know. Gary Mosley, do you like 80s chorus? I feel like it's looked down upon now. I loved 80s Clapton tri-chorus thing. Yeah, you know, when used right, and I love how Michael Landau uses one. I've got the blue hippo in the closet. I love it. It's very much that thing. So what it comes down to is if I had somebody moving my pedal board for me, I would have that on there as an option, you know, because it just sounds awesome when you want that thing. And then you can get it like how, like, I like the way like Michael Landau uses it. But yeah, it does sound very 80s. You could use it a bit in the Zakk Wylde way, or so very kind of on a little bit and kind of fattening up the sound. Michael Nielsen did a really cool video on that, on Zakk Wylde's secret tone stuff. So check that out. It's kind of fun. I do like the sound of the chorus, but you just start running into real estate. And then whenever I put it on my board, I'm like, yeah, I'm really not using that. And then everything starts to get tighter on the board. So, and then I just end up, you don't want too many options. Now, switchers, people were kind of asking, would I ever get a switcher? I would like maybe the idea of a switcher, especially, you know, because some of my songs, I am doing a bit of a pedal dance here and there. I've gotten kind of used to it. The only problem with the switcher is it starts to take up more room and it adds more weight. And I gotta admit, I get kind of lazy. You know, like I've talked about this many times, playing in New York is a bit of a anomaly because oftentimes, depending on what it is, I'll just take the subway into the gig with one guitar and the pedal board and plug into the house amp. Or if I'm driving, I'll bring my little 2-rock combo, usually never the big ones unless I'm playing with like Matt Schofield. Well, I'll still use my little amp, whatever. And then, you know, the big heavy pedal board, you got to do everything in one trip. If I want to bring 2 guitars, it just becomes kind of a lot. And so the multi-tiered board with, you could put stuff underneath and have everything controlled by a switcher like the gig rig, sounds great in a fantasy world, but I don't know if I would do it. I mean, I'm sure if I had someone like Dan set it up for me, it would be awesome in a way I've never thought about. But a lot of it comes down to weight and size of the thing. It's going to make the pedal board bigger and heavier. So I get lazy, for sure. Like, what guitar am I going to bring on the gig? The heavier guitar or the lighter guitar? I'm always bringing the lighter stuff. So I find that works for me. But the switchers are awesome. It would be nice to be able to hit a button and turn on, you know, the Octavia and the Univibe and all these things at once, or in a straight line. But I've gotten kind of used to it. So, how are you mounting your pedals on your board? I've got Gorilla Strength Velcro that seems to work pretty great. I'm using Dual Lock, so it's the Velcro on both sides. I find it's best. It really holds on pretty well. And to get the pedals off, you usually have to use like kind of a spatula thing and lift it up. And I just find it lasts longer than regular Velcro, but the Gorilla Glue is going to stick really well. But I just like how strong this is. I've never come out of like an airport with pedals hanging off, you know, or anything like that. It's pretty strong. Now, some people may ask, and if Angus is on here, we can talk. Why don't I use a clip-on tuner, headstock tuner, instead of the pedal there? It's another pedal. Well, 2 things. One, if you're using something like this, I just cannot play a gig with that on my guitar. Just can't do it. And then there's the smaller ones, which I have one here that go right here behind the headstock. Those are better, but what I really do like is just being able to silent tune on stage, turn off everything if I need to. I see it really fast and quickly, then back on. If a pedal or something starts weird happening, you just turn that. Your amp starts making a noise. Something weird goes on, you just turn off your pedal. Like you turn off your the sound. So I know other things could be going on this side and it would still work, but I've used the pedal tuners forever. Also, I find that the little ones, right, the little tuners, they're kind of hard to see, and you're sitting there doing that. Whereas I just find it's much easier for me on the floor to have a kind of a brighter pedal up front. But the main thing, and I know people get really incensed about this, but to me, that just isn't a look that I want. Just think about all these iconic pictures of Jimmy Page playing a Les Paul and imagine a headstock tuner on it. So, I don't know. Especially, but the functionality of this. Now, of course, hey, look, I'm going to rehearsal. I'll bring a little tuner, but I'll put it on the guitar and I'll take it off the guitar immediately. You know what I mean? Because I can't abide by it. The best stuff everyone should be using now to attach pedals is the Duck Max Strength Nano Grab double-sided gel tape. It's even better than dual lock. Well, maybe the next work, trying to get that off of this pedal board would be a bit of a disaster. But I've never had any problems with this. It's always, I have it at Home Depot. All right, see, now it came off because I didn't push it down hard enough. But, see, there we go. I just put this together for this thing. Don't do what I just did. But normally I could pick up that pedal board from just the pedal. I think it's up to like 20 pounds or something like that. Except for right now. It's live. It's still live. We'll do it live. It's live. All right. Any more pedal questions? This, like, once again, I kind of almost, in a way, am I liking, since I'm moving the expression pedal. I'm kind of liking this idea maybe more than presets. Because sometimes, once again, the preset, if you get on the gig and you start playing, I have found that sometimes the preset is a bit more wet than I wanted it to be. Especially if you're talking about something like a timeline, I got to kind of do a little bit of scrolling and stuff like that. So I'm experimenting now without presets and using the expression pedal, or with a MIDI pedal, a few presets with an expression pedal as well. And I like that thing too, because then I can change the sound and then use the expression pedal to mix how much I want of the effect. Once again, that is a bit weird because sometimes on the gig you're trying to find that spot. If you ever try to use the wah and you're trying to get that perfect spot for like that shankery thing, and you're like, nope, and you're standing up and you're trying to find it. Also, I do find the smaller pedal, I'm using this thing. What is this? The Dunlop one, the Mini. I much prefer a big one, like a regular size volume pedal, but it just becomes more difficult to bring around. I find sometimes finding the angle with your foot on this is a bit trickier. And I have it set really, really, a lot of tension, so it's hard to kind of move. And I think that helps a lot. But you know what I mean? If you have the bigger pedal, it's easier to find that sweet spot than sometimes a smaller one like that. Okay. Jeff, does your Tuttle have the whammy bar? Can you play the whammy bar when you use? Wait, hold on. Oh yeah, no. Okay, let me reset without. Let me read that properly. Does your Tuttle have play in the whammy bar when you use it? I can't stand the loose feel of my Fender trem, even with the tiny spring. Well, we can talk about that in a second, but no. Push-in bar, the best. Push it in, and he's got a set screw in the back. So, it's super, stays where you want it, or you can make it looser so it moves around, but there's no play whatsoever. I need it to be super immediate with that as well, like that. So to help with, I did a video on the YouTube about the tremolo for my Fenders, and the secret is going to be that the spring and the Teflon tape around the screw threads. That's the word. So I put that in there, and that makes the fender. I got my fenders over here. Doesn't move, but after a little while, it does start to kind of wear away. So it's something you have to do again. So I drop the spring in. Drop the spring in, and get to this. And that's pretty right there as well. All right, so I got the spring and the Teflon tape around the threads. And see, like that's pretty direct. But after a while, that's going to wear away. So you have to do the Teflon tape thing again. But that is one thing I definitely prefer about Michael's trims and the PRS too. It's a push-in bar with a little screw, so it's direct. So I like that the best. Nick Granville, what's up, man? How's it going? Doing good. Thanks for being here as always. What does Vibe Machine sound like? Kind of ran through it earlier, but hey. It's really nice. This is, like I said, version 1. I haven't played version 2 or 3. This is always sounding great. I'm going to, I do want another one, just for the same reason I got an extra shanks, is because I keep on pulling them off the board and putting them on a different board. And I would like to not have to pull apart the board as much. All right. But I've been finding this covers sort of everything. Like that tune I opened with, I don't have the Univibe, but I'm not going to be in tune, so I'm floating bridge, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it kind of covers it. Like, so the only thing I said I would like to have is maybe another gain section and the Univibe, not the Octavia at times, because that just sounds awesome. Are you guys using clip-on tuners? I don't. Some guys get really incensed when you knock the clip-on tuner. What is that? That's my. That got moved. Some guys get really upset. I use a clip-on tuner. Okay, cool, whatever. I just said, the guitar is such a beautiful instrument. I just want to keep that the way it's supposed to be. Now, Scott Henderson has told me that he likes the clip-on tuner because it actually changes the resonant frequency of the neck. So I guess it's like putting one of those fat fingers on the neck. So it sounds great. It works for him. I'm not going to tell Scott Henderson no. I think he uses the little one, but. Yeah, I just like the look. Let me just show you something real fast. 1 second. Yeah, use it at home only. I'm gonna plug this in real fast so you can hear what the 3 gain sounds like. So let's just get rid of the Univibe for a minute. if I can get this off here. Let's do this. That's easier to get off. All right. If it doesn't fall off the table. Let me see what I can do here. I haven't dialed it in, but. See, so I can get that first level of more. All right, so first level of more, then. Playing a D there. So for my gig, I want that to be able to get that. So that's the only thing on this small board that I feel like it's always going to be a sacrifice. So if I use the del verb here, then I don't have as much control on the output of the delay, changing the delay sounds as much. So it all comes down to, what's more important. So on my gig, I always have to have the 3 stages of gain. So 1, hold on, 1, right? This kind of, turn that down. Guessing on how good this is on 2. And then 3. Right? And also I can choose between, whoop, trying to make sure I talk into the mic. So I can choose between this and then this. So I can really fine tune it into what I want. I'm pumping a lot of volume in on this. Sorry guys. Like right here, I might not pump as much volume. Now the king of tone, the volume's not like the Shanks, the output volume is crazy on that pedal, on all the VEMRAM stuff, like a lot of output. There's not as much output, I think, as in the get-go, so it really starts, the drive and the volume are much more interactive. So it's set up maybe they wouldn't get as much of a volume boost. I would just get more or less gain, maybe a little bit more volume boost and let the sound guy pump up the volume. And if it's on a gig with no sound guy, I'll set it for a little bit more of a volume boost. And then the other one, not as much of a volume boost, but a little more gain. So the gain staging thing is something you want to work out. I kind of learned that, from playing for so freaking long, but I first heard about it really when Eric Johnson, we started seeing how he set his tube driver or his fuzz face, like the volume output on those isn't that low. So he's more gain staging, adding more gain as opposed to pushing the front end of the amp super hard. So, come back some questions here. All right. Makes sense adding mass to the headstock. Yeah, for sure. Talking about Scott Henderson for a second. I use a clip-on, but I don't leave it on the guitar. Yeah, I just don't leave it on the guitar. I use the Pro Tune for extra gain stage. You should try it since you use the ODS. I've tried the Pro Tune. I really do like it. I think I returned it. I thought it was great, but it was very much like other things that I already owned. But I thought it was great. But I didn't find it to be as different from some of this stuff, and then like the King Tone Heavy Hand, which is a great sounding pedal. So, getting a Peterson strobe clip-on tuner for maintenance. Yeah, those are great. It saves space on the board, the clip-on, but they break really easily. Yeah, it saves space on the board, but I use a clip-on tuners when I'm not using pedal boards. Yeah, of course, right. Playing acoustic gigs or jazzing, right. If you're not using a pedal board, sure, of course, then absolutely. And yeah, I don't find that are they as accurate? I don't really know. I love how BV knows more about my pedals than I do, which is really funny. Your COD is a higher gain red side only, right? I don't ever remember. And so I'm looking at that. Sometimes when you flip this switch, you're like, what? It doesn't make a huge difference until you're really listening. So it's funny. I just kind of go like, oh, it sounds good. Now to my ear, the higher gains, I wish I could flip flop, so it would be lesser gain, higher gain, or I don't know what I would do, but I just got used to it. I just set it to the way where I feel like it's 1, 2, 3. I just love it. I mean, that seriously, BB was like, this is what's going on there. I'm like, oh, okay. Cool. I mean, this sounds great. I'm at a really low volume. I like to get that kind of harmonic feedback here. That's a sustain. Yeah. And just that side. Let's just hear this thing by itself, which also sounds great. Yeah, it all sounds great. But as a standalone, it feels super ampy to me. Not that this doesn't, but this I don't know, I haven't experimented with enough, some people may argue. This feels a bit more ampy. This sounds a bit more pedally. Who knows? But for me, right off the bat, yeah, sounds great. Reacts great. Cheaper option, the bus pedal from 5 watt. Let's hear that. Give my friend a shout out. Hello. All right. So we got here. So I mean, the Vemram's got tons of output on the gain, whereas other pedals don't have as much. You got this side. Great pedal. Keith's bus pedal. That Keith from 5 Watt World, along with David Barber. It's sort of a mixture of his Dumble pedal on one side with the switch, And then the other side is this JTM 45, sort of based upon the direct drive. But the direct drive is a great pedal as well. I've got one of those. So like I said, the Shanks is where I kind of live, but I'm always really happy when I plug into this. So, you know, it's nice to have some options. But did you notice when I was playing this, I preferred this to the sound of the Klon and to the front of this. It gets very mid-rangey, which can be cool, but this is sort of more my jam, these together. So the Jan Ray and the Landau give me this as well if you look on my big pedal board. And the Landau gets me that SD9 fuzzy thing, which I really like as well. Anyway, it's nice to have options, but the basic situation is right here. I think this, I'm very happy with just the Klon as well, right into the Shanks. All right. Any more questions? We kind of run a little long. At Nick Scramble, you always got a great tone. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. This is, once again, this is my Tuttle signature model. This one does not have my signature on the back, but the other ones do. Got to get that. And this is the noise-free pickups I have right now, the DiMarzio. I also, in a different pickguard, I do have Michael's pickups. And I also have Moran Ellis's pickups. So I lean towards the noise-free because of all the work. You know, stacking ton of gain, and it's quiet. So for recording videos, and I know there's all the back plates, and I know there's all the things we can put inside. This just sounds good, and I'm friends with Steve Blucher at DiMarzio, so we kind of dialed them in for me. Very happy with them. I think they're great. We talked about that in other live feeds. Sean Varley, what's up, man? Got a DTT 15 with no effects loop. Those are great sounding amps, man. Congrats. Hope you're doing well. Gary Mosley, do you like the butter machine? I do. It's on my other pedal board. It's tweaky. It takes a lot of getting used to. The only thing I find somewhat annoying is there's the two knobs that are, and the little switches that are recessed. And I think they're really active. They're not, I think they are. So I would love to have them on the top of the pedal. If MRAM, I know you, I love you guys. That's the only thing I would change about that pedal. It's tweaky though. It's not one of those pedals. Once you get it dialed in, it sounds amazing. But getting it there, sometimes you're like, oh, it's a bit too much or a bit, you know, too little or something. Oh, great. Sorry, I didn't get the first time. Sweet tunings. How do you like them? Do you mean the nut, or do you mean just a kind of like retuning? The tempered nuts I never use because I'm just so used to regular tuning my whole life. I find Michael's guitars intonate spectacularly well, and it's another thing I love about PRSs. Not that Gibsons don't or Fenders, but the PRSs just intonate so beautifully well. So I'm kind of used to it. So I did have a Sir at one point with the nut, you know, and I thought it was cool, but then you need a different tuner and you need to set the thing. And then for recordings, I'll sweet tune the guitar if you're playing a lot of D chords and it's a little funky. I'll tweak it, because the second you put frets on it, everything's kind of out the window. So I'll tweak that a little bit to be able to use it in a recording for sure. Struggling to learn how to stack all the effects in front of the amp. Well, you see, that's the problem with no effects loop. And if you just look at David, okay, here's what it comes down to, man. If you have no effects loop, David doesn't use a lot of delay. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think there's reverb in the amp. He doesn't use a lot of wet delay sounds. If you want like a big Pink Floyd-y David Gilmour wet delay sound, it's going to be hard to do that when you're using amp overdrive with no effects loop. So that's the end of the way I deal with that, especially on a lot of gigs, is I just run clean into the amp and I use the pedal. So with the traditional old school amp like that, where he doesn't want the effects loop, he just wants it to be the sound of the amp, that's a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a thing. So that's where it gets a little tricky. But, you know, it sounds great, that power amp cranking. And as BB's answering too, it's about the headroom of the amp. Yeah, reverb and treble in the amp, you are correct. Right, so the delay gets a bit weird. You know, if you're using a lot of gain from the amp and you got it cranked and the power amp's doing its thing, it's a bit weird. So you need an amp with a lot of headroom for that. So like this Friedman, there's a lot of preamp distortion in it, which sounds great, But when I record with it, I just crank up the amp all the way and get the power amp distortion as well, because I like that. The two rocks, I mean, I tried to do that. They're just super loud. As well, they're all super loud. All right. Any final questions? Kind of fun discussion. Oh, Beefy said something here. Not for your flyboard necessarily, but gigs coming out. Try the mains into the shanks. You might like it. All right, I'll check it out. Oh, Manus. I've never even heard of it. I'll check it out. Is that the one with the sliding faders? I can't remember. Yeah, there's all those huge. There's so many options. There's so many good things out there. Like I said, I feel like I'm really limiting. Not limiting. I'm not limiting anything. But you know what I'm saying. I'm not new pedals and things. I'm like, no, I don't really want anything new. I really like what I've got, and I want to try to limit. I like to fine tune it. How much better is this next overdrive going to sound than that other overdrive? I got a sound in my head, and I feel like this gets it, or the Shanks Janray Landau gets it too, you know. And I always end up going to the Strymon because I think it sounds amazing. I think the Halo sounds amazing as well. Really love the sound of this pedal. I just, as much as I've tried to get used to this, I know Mick from that pedal show, and Buddy Blues was talking about it the other day on his Instagram. He's like, I just can't, maybe I'm stupid, you know what I mean? But pushing all this stuff like that, you know, and pushing on these buttons and all that kind of, it just flips me out. It's too much. These two pedals are kind of close together. I can use the external tap. I've been messing around with this because I can use the expression pedal with this, and I was liking that, and I can just use this as a tap tempo. So that's something I'm going to investigate as well. But I'm just so used to this. I've been using it forever and ever and ever. So programming it live on a gig, and I like the new version a lot. One final thing. People ask, why don't I use sometimes the spring reverb on that? I think it sounds good. Sounds okay. It's not as great as this, but check it out. If I don't want delay, it turns off. So it's got to be on. And then it's not as, it's kind of like a nice thing that they threw on there, but you're not going to get the same control over that, right? Does something, Michael Cope, does something like the Kingsley Page or Tube Driver deliver a different enough overdrive versus this setup? Well, the Kingsley Page is, I've messed with one. It's a bit more of like a lower gain, and it sounds great. All his pedals sound great. I've never played a Tube Driver with knowing how to properly use a Tube Driver. A friend of mine had one, and you know, it was before I knew anything about gear, and I had no idea how to make it sound right. I thought it sounded terrible because I was trying to make it sound like a metal amp at the time. You know what I mean? I wanted to sound like this thing. You know, I'm like, well, this thing sounds terrible. It doesn't sound like Eric Johnson. How come this doesn't sound like Eric Johnson? You know, because that's not the way he's using it, you know? So I don't know. I'd love to get one again. The only problem with them, I know there's that new company, the Crazy Circuits or whoever that company put out a smaller version of it, is they're big and they've got the plug. So powering them is a pain, and they're big. But I'd love to check one out. I know a lot of great players besides Eric Johnson use them. David Gilmour uses one all the time. And I think Andy Timmons got a bunch of them. I know they're great sounding pedals. Like I said, I have not spent any time with any of them to really dial it in. And then I wonder how much better it would be than kind of what I'm running that I feel really comfortable with. A good compressor can give you the feel, but not... I never use compressors. I know you didn't ask about compressors. I never use compressors because I feel like I'm just going to use them as boosts. Even with like funk stuff, I just never used them. And anything that kind of, it's like noise gates. You have to really know how to use a compressor well. There are the ones that I have liked are the ones where you mix the clean and the compressed signal. How do you get an amp to sing without being too loud? You don't. You have to, double it up with pedals. You got to fake it, There's just nothing like moving some air. And so even here, like I said, on a gig, I might actually have less overdrive, but we're faking it. Like this is clean and we're going through an aux. It's not real speakers. You're not moving air. There's no cool circuit between you and the instrument being made. So there's a lot of things that you're missing when you're doing this that are completely different. So that's what I was saying to the very top of the whole day today was you have to play the rig at volume at a rehearsal, hopefully with your band, especially if you're setting delay levels, how much overdrive you have. That's why I avoid things with menus on gigs, because I want to be able to lean over and turn down the overdrive or something like that. Or change my delay level on this. I can do it really quickly in between songs, and I know what's up. So yeah, you got to work on that at volume, because at home, it's completely different. Completely different. At a low volume, you turn it up, and suddenly you're like, wow, do I play with that much reverb? At a low volume, you do, because you're not hearing it. When you turn up loud, you're like, oh, you need reverb. So BV, it's a new Keeley, new Superclon. I can reach out to Robert. I'm sure. I'll maybe check that out. See, checking more stuff out. But anyway, all right, guys, I appreciate it. If I was going to do a quick easy board, you want to go kind of, okay, here's this. I don't want to say cheap, because it's not what's cheap. I mean, the Blues Driver is inexpensive. Delverb, you got the reverb and delay, both awesome. I don't usually cut the corner too much on the overdrive. I would reach out for one of these. These are much more expensive, I would say, for sure. But these are pretty reasonable as things go. A lot of JHS stuff. But I just like David Barber's ears a lot. So the direct drive or the bus. I know it sounds like I'm pushing this. It sounds great. You heard it. And then some overdrive in front of it. That's where, like, for me, like a Blues Driver sounds cool as your boost pedal, right? Or anything clean, or like something relatively inexpensive. It's all relative, of course, as a Tumnus or just a clean boost. I like something with a little bit of overdrive so I can dial it in. And a tuner kind of covers all that. You know what I mean? So, like I said, if I go back over to here, blah, 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 blah. Right. You know, I don't have all the pedals lined up there, but Delverb, direct drive or overdrive your pedal, some sort of boosty thing right there, kind of covers it. I mean, if you're not looking for any warbly sounds, but it's just a simple, what I'd probably use all the time is delay and reverb in one awesome sounding pedal right here. Great overdrive, something to boost it a little bit that I like, and a tuner. And if you wanted to, if you didn't want to have the tuner, that's where you could put in a boosty thing and a warbly effect, and then have your headstock tuner. But, or kind of do what I've got going on here. You try to cram everything as much as you can onto one board. All right, everybody, as always, I really appreciate you being here. You guys rock. Don't forget to go over Jam Guitar Lessons. The inner circle is now full again for the month, but if you want to check that out, you can get on a waiting list. That is where we meet. First, we get everything in the channel included, all the workshops ahead of time. You get guaranteed seat at all the workshops and master classes. You get each of the courses. You can stream them anytime you want. You can also, we meet twice a month, second Wednesday evening and the last Sunday at noon. And we hang out and go through a lesson, and prior to those, you have an HD lesson and filmed in HD. So you have a lesson that is exclusive to the channel and to the inner circle, and you get 2 of those a month. And then the live lesson, we kind of go through it and talk about it, and then answer any questions you have. We can talk about anything. It's been really great. It's been growing. It's a ton of fun. I love doing it. I love interacting with everyone. Everybody seems to be really happy, and of course, everything's recorded, so you can watch it at any time you want. I've been having a great time with it. Really satisfying, and I get asked to do a lot of guitar lessons, and this is an affordable way to get some nice group lessons with a great bunch of guys with a lot of questions. And I found what's nice is, even though sometimes there's mixed levels, it's been working really well. We've been finding a way to everybody's all got the same questions, and And we cover all that. So it's a lot of fun. So you want to check that out. See Inner Circle. You might have to get on the waiting list, but it's fun. Anyway, all right. Oh, Keith's in here. That's a nice pedal. Keith, I was already singing the praises of the bus pedal being a great option with many sonic options in it. Hey, real fast. Is the left, which side, which was the switch for the Dumble side? To the left or to the right? I can never remember. Can you answer that? Hold on. That seems a bit more mid-rangey. Hold on, let's get a humbucker. To the right. Okay. Which one? Like the Dumble to the right or to the left? Okay, that's to the left. That's to the right. To the right, left switch. Okay. To the right, left switch on to the right. Okay. To the right, yes. It's a three-way. Okay. Right, gotcha. Okay, yeah, that's the Dumble one. Yeah. Ew. Yeah. Now, one thing I do have to say about what I like about Keith's, this pedal, some of the Dumble pedals, when you go to the neck pickup, they get a bit farty, right? They can sound a bit fuzzy. Right? Not really going to change the dynamics. A little more woofy there, which is fine. So with that much gain on, and kind of that Dumble compression too rocky thing, I like the way this one interacts with the neck pickup a lot. Forgive my playing. Right? I really like that a lot. Whereas I have like that Shins audio, which sounds great, really super tweaky. So right off the bat, I just think that Keith and David Barber have dialed this in really, really well. So, all right, I know I'm hawking my friend's pedal. He's in here too. Put the link where they can get it, Keith. And then also, like I said, I'm very happy with this or the direct drive in this. But hey, let's hear it. Hold on, one more time. We got to go over here. The not Dumble side. How about the neck pickup? There we go again. Doesn't get that flubby thing, so. See how much gain it gets? Let's hear this. More mids going on right here too. That's the JTM 45 thing going on. Now one on top of each other. Here we go. smells pretty good too. All right. All good stuff. All right, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to have a video coming out this weekend. And I got a few things lined up. Should be fun. I just got a text on my phone here. Adam Levy is coming over tomorrow. And we're going to shoot some video and hang out with Adam. And yeah. All right. There we go. Everyone, thanks so much for being here. BB, thank you for doing this as always. I really appreciate it. Oh yeah, and once again, this is the guitar. This is the run of private stocks I did with my buddies over at Watchtower Guitars. And this guitar has been kicking my butt. This is so good. Oh my gosh. If you want to check one out, you can go over to Watchtower Guitars. You can hear it. Sounds great. Does it sound like a Les Paul? I don't know. Sounds great. 7 pounds, 11 ounces. I don't know. Looks as good on person as it does on camera. Really, really into it. All right. I'll see all you later. Thanks so much for hanging. And see you in a few 2 weeks. Or maybe sooner. I think I'm going to have Shane Terrio on live with me sometime. I don't know when that is. Anyway, I'll see you guys all soon. Take it easy. Have a great night.